it going this morning? I'm sitting here in my fantastic home studio because I don't feel like getting out of bed, or can't. And it's raining outside anyway, so I thought I would do something indoors. And a few weeks ago, I hit 100 subs. And it seems to have stuck. I'm up at like 110, somewhere in that range. So I thought I would do a giveaway. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do for the giveaway yet, as far as the prizes go. But this is kind of a teaser for what the what the giveaway is going to be about. Eddie Gray's favorite albums giveaways just knocked my socks off. Everybody's got so much great stuff out there, and every one I watched, I was like, how could I forget them? How could I forget that? And I saw another one today from Southwest Aficionado. Micah had one of my favorite albums ever in it that I just totally overlooked. That was Aerosmith Rocks. Anyway, I'm not going to go back down that path because that's a never-ending path. But anyway, that led me to think about concerts. I've been going to concerts since I was 7 years old, and I've gone to a bunch of concerts. I've lost count long ago, and I've lost so many ticket stubs that I'll never be able to remember them all. But I saved a bunch of ticket stubs, and still have a bunch of them. Anyway, thought I would go through my best concert experiences and stuff like that. So I tried to narrow this down to top 10 concerts. That became, I had 20 that I couldn't leave off the list, so I decided to do it this way. I've still got my top 10, but I still have the other 10 here as well. So these are going to be like honorable mentions. These concerts, for various reasons, were just fantastic. They meant something to me, or had a great time, or great music, or whatever. But anyway, get right to it here. This was the first concert I ever went to. Elvis. Only thing I remember about that concert is him throwing a water in the face of some woman that got up on stage, and a couple of songs at the end. This was the first concert I ever went to by myself. I think. I take that back. There was a couple before this. By myself means without adult supervision, and I know there was a couple before this. This was a birthday present, actually. This was a present for my 12th birthday. Yeah, I turned 12 the day before this concert, and I'll never forget this concert. So all you mathematicians out there can figure out how old I am. But, that was a great concert. That was kind of the last hurrah for Kiss as far as before they regrouped and got everything back together. That was not a good experience for them, but it was a damn good experience for the fans. These guys, I saw them twice, and they put on an excellent show every time. Hall & Oates. This is one of my favorite songwriter-singers ever, and I will forever treasure being able to see him in concert. John Prine. Those first three were in Huntsville, Alabama. That one was in California. This one, you're not going to be able to see it, but this was, I saw these guys 3 times, and every single time they absolutely blew me away, and I can't find the other 2 stubs. But this is Rush. I know you're not going to be able to see that. That was in Nashville, Tennessee, and those guys put on a hell of a show. These guys also put on a fantastic show. When I used to think of concerts back in the day, I thought showmanship was the thing. You know, that's why I enjoyed Kiss so much. And then I came to understand that live music was where the guys really shined. A lot of the bands out there, their records are great, but when they get on stage and just play, it just opens up a whole new world. These guys did both. Jethro Tull, one of the best shows I ever saw, by far. Should have been in that other list, but I can't decide what to leave out. This show was a fantastic show. And this is a throwback to, there was already one on there, the Kiss stub was like this too. This is a throwback, the way ticket stubs used to look back in the day. And notice the price on some of these. That Elvis was $10. It's Kansas, $8.50. That was with the original lineup. Killer show. I saw Kansas again, and about 3 years after that, one of the strangest experiences. I'll save that one for the end. Better write it down though, because I'll forget it. My notes over here. Kansas Sleeper. Alright, what else we got? This was a great show. This was the first, what I'd call, huge band that I saw. That's really not true, but you'll understand when you see it. This is one of the iconic classic bands of all time. Rolling Stones. And if you see right down here at the bottom, third row. I saw them again a few years after that, and we were at the same stadium, holds about, I don't know, 60,000 people or so, and we were in the next to the last row. We watched most of the concert on the Jumbotron in between us and the stage. There's a funny story about that one too. I'm gonna tell you later, but this is a great band. This was at a time when they were hitting on, when they were just absolutely at their peak, I think, as far as playing live goes. They recorded tons of stuff from this era, and they put out multiple videos and box sets and blah blah blah. Metallica. Fantastic show right here. I always thought, I enjoyed their music, but I always thought it would be a boring concert because of, I don't know, for some reason I assumed that they would just sit up there and do their little, robotic motions back and forth, but they put on a hell of a show. ZZ Top. You ever get a chance to see them go, probably won't have too many more chances to see them. Funny thing about that concert, a band called Extreme opened up for them. They were one of my favorite bands of that era. And the guitar player, Nuno Bettencourt, after he finished playing their set, he became Billy Gibbons' roadie. He set up all of his equipment, he put all of his stuff together, and I thought that was great, man. And I know that was just an homage to Billy Gibbons. He said, he was honored to be on the tour, I'm sure, and said, hey, can I be your roadie? And he let him. Okay, one other thing. This was a series. It's the first one, 1993. Big Spring Jam. Most people don't understand. Big Spring Jam, September 24th. Big Spring was the name of the park that this was held in. But anyway, they put on these festivals back in my hometown. I think they went on for about 15 or 16 years. I saw the first 8 of them, I believe. Yeah, I've got 7 ticket stubs, but these are from all the different years, weekend passes. And this show festival usually featured about 50 or so bands, and usually about a dozen or so really good bands. And I saw so much good stuff at these. Never been able to find a list of all the performers, but I know I saw Little Feat, Buddy Guy, Leo Kottke, War. I saw Kansas, Government Mule, Widespread Panic, Driving and Crying, Alison Krauss and Union Station. It's just tons and tons of people, and there were some absolutely great times to be had at that festival. Then the city got involved with it, and it died within 2 years. It's a shame. These are the top 10 shows I've ever been to. I've tried to put them in order, but you really can't, except for maybe the top 3 or 4. Yeah, I would say probably top 3 or 4 are probably in order. But these are some great shows. This was the loudest concert I ever went to, by far. My ears rang for days. And these guys knew how to put on a show, too. That was in '85 on the Theater of Pain tour. And trying to remember who opened up for them. Guns N' Roses opened up for them in '87. And I'd never heard of Guns N' Roses. It was the 4th big show they had ever played. I saw Rat a few times. Queensryche opened up for Rat one time before they were anybody. And I became a big Queensryche fan. Then I saw this tour. This is Queensryche with Suicidal Tendencies. This was the tour that they played Operation Mindcrime in its entirety. Operation Live Crime, I think it was called. And that was an awesome experience. Those guys killed it. This next show, it just kind of happened spur of the moment. I can't remember how I found out about it, but there were 3 tickets left when I bought mine. And it was in this little dive bar. When I say a little dive bar, I don't mean it held 300 or 400 people. I mean it held like 50 people. And I don't know how many tickets they sold, but that place was packed. And I was literally not making, trying to be odd or anything. The stage was about 4 sheets of plywood nailed to 2x4s. So the stage was about that tall. And it was a 3-piece band, and they absolutely filled that stage up. It was just jam-packed. And I was right in front of the guitar player. I could have reached out at any time and touched him, but they put on a hell of a show. And that was Steve Morse Band. You don't know who Steve Morse is? He was a guitar player for the Dixie Dregs. He went on and played, kind of fill in with Deep Purple, and I believe he played with Kansas for a little while. He's played with a bunch of people, but he is an awesome guitar player. Awesome. This one's for Eddie Gray. I went to see Night Ranger, whom I loved, and they put on a good show, but the outfield at this concert just blew everybody away. They didn't sell a whole lot of tickets. This was about a 10,000 seat arena where I saw most of the concerts back home, and they roped off the top half of the arena because they didn't sell enough tickets. So everybody that was there was down on the floor, and it was just like it was sold out. And it was a great show, incredible amount of energy. This show was an outdoor show, and it rained the entire time. I call it the best worst concert I ever saw. Worst because of the rain, best because it just floored me. These guys put on a great show. I wish I could have seen them 15 years earlier or so. But anyway. That was a great show. That was in Tampa, Florida. Alright. My brother won tickets to this show on the radio and was not interested in going. He gave me the ticket. How old was I? 13 years old. He gave me the ticket because he knew I wouldn't be able to go. And I happened to be at my father's house that weekend. And he let me and my stepbrother go. So we went and saw what was widely hailed as the greatest Van Halen tour ever. That was the Fair Warning tour. And buddy, they brought it. They were an intense band to see live back then. I've seen them 3 other times besides that. That was the only time I ever saw them with David Lee Roth. I saw David Lee Roth solo, but that was great. Now we get to the top 4 concerts, and these 4 concerts musically, and the amount of energy and just an absolutely fantastic show from start to finish. Every single one of them. Any one of these could be a top concert that I ever saw. And I've seen these bands multiple times. There's 4 shows here, 3 bands. I've seen them a total. I've seen 12 concerts with these 3 bands. Saw the Allman Brothers 3 times. They played for over 4 hours that night. Just them, no opening act, no intermission that I remember. We had seats right beside the soundboard. I mean, they had the seats next to us had been removed so they could put the soundboard there. And if you're a sound aficionado, you know that right beside the soundboard is the best place to sit at a concert, because the guy that's mixing the show is hearing it right there, so it sounds best to him, and in that little general area right around him, it's the best place to be at a concert, typically, unless they're using headphones or something like that. But back then they didn't do that so much. Awesome show. That was when Warren Haynes and Alan Woody were playing with them, and before they split off to do Government Mule. I think Government Mule album came out not too long after that show. Next year, I think. But anyway, they put on a fantastic show. Everybody was just nailing it. This is my favorite live band, and this was an awesome concert. This was awesome. I drove to Atlanta for this concert and went with a friend that I'd never met before, and never saw after. It was it was an online friend, and I just happened to score these tickets, and she lived in the area, and we went to the concert, and that was the last I ever heard from her, I believe. But anyway, Black Crowes at the fabulous Fox Theater in Atlanta, Georgia. This was on Easter Day, Easter Sunday, and they have one song that talks about Easter Sunday, and they played that song during this show, and when they got to that point, man, the crowd just blew up. That whole arena was just, not arena, it's a theater, but man, it was alive. It was so alive. This is another guy. Every time I've seen him, he just absolutely blows me away. Puts on a great show. I got the wrong ticket stub. Anyway, I'm not going to dig it out because it'd take me forever to find it. I saw him at a different venue than this one. This was a great show too, but not the one I'm thinking of. Anyway, I had floor seats, about 6 or 8 rows back, something like that. And early on in the show, there was this mad rush. Everybody kind of got up and went to the stage, and they knocked down all the chairs in the area that I was sitting in. All the chairs were scattered on the floor, and unless you just moved them out of the way, which not too many people seem interested in doing, you didn't have anywhere to stand. Well, I never moved. I just stood where I was the whole time, and there was about a 12-foot circumference around me where there was nobody. It was just me and the band, and it was awesome, man. It was awesome. Tom Petty. Great concert. Great concert. Excellent entertainer. And the top show ever for me is one band that we've already seen, and I said it was my favorite live band. This was the tour off of their second album when they really started making a name for themselves. For the next, let's say, about 6 or 8 years, they put out 3 great albums and did just tour after tour, and became what, I can't remember who said this, it was some rock critic, called them the most rock and roll band in rock and roll. And I'd have to agree with that. They just put on a killer show every time. This was the Black Crowes in '92 at TPAC, Tennessee Performing Arts Center, Jackson Hall. They just killed it. They opened up with my favorite song, and it just went up from there. The whole show was just fantastic. The Jayhawks, somebody mentioned the Jayhawks in one of the album videos, opened up for them. A lot of these people, I don't remember who opened up for them. I tried to look up Van Halen. I found a couple of bands that opened up for them on that tour, and I never heard of either one of them. I don't remember that. Nobody opened up for the Black Crowes at the Fox that I remember. Todd Snyder opened up for Tom Petty. Nobody for the Allman Brothers. Nobody for Pink Floyd. Night Ranger and Outfields. I don't remember who opened up for Motley Crue, but anyway, I saw some great stuff. So that was concerts. Then I've got concert experiences that I had. These were good and bad. I thought I would share these with you because this is going to tie into my contest eventually. I saw 4 bands where the opening act just blew them away and became huge. Well, I won't say every one of them blew the other ones away, but they became huge bands. Rat in 1985, a little band called Bon Jovi opened up for them. They had one song out at the time that anybody had heard of. That was Runaway. That was great. Then Rat in '87, Queensryche opened up for them. Queensryche went on to become huge. Heart in 1982. This is one where the opening act did blow them off stage. 1982, this guy was just starting to roll. And he had 4 albums out, I think, at that point, but this is the album that really put him over the top and made him a household name. He was still known as John Cougar back then, and the only song I'd heard by him, because I'd never heard this album, the only song I'd ever heard by him was Ain't Even Done With the Night. And he played everything off of, I think it was American Fool, Jack and Diane, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was great. Motley Crue in '87, 2 years after that concert, another unknown band opened up for him. I kept saying, you know, who's the opening act? I think they're called Love and Rockets or something like that. Who was a band at the time? But it was actually Guns N' Roses. That was fantastic. That was early. I believe, I have to look that up to be sure, but I believe that was the 4th show that Guns N' Roses had played other than local stuff and small tours out west. It was the 4th big show. And I thought, while I was watching them, I thought, man, I'm watching like a cross between Aerosmith and, you know, some heavy metal stuff. I don't know, because of the way Axl Rose moved, and just the whole vibe that they gave off was very Aerosmith, but with a very, very hard edge. And that was cool. And I mentioned that Kansas concert. These are some of the strangest experiences I ever had at shows. Kansas in '82, I was by myself at that concert, and I had met the band actually earlier that day. They did an unannounced autograph session at a record store, and I happened to hear about it on the radio as it was happening, and rushed down there and got their autograph, and that was cool. That was really cool. But anyway, at that show, next to me was this huge guy. He was like just a football player kind of guy. And back then, there weren't very many African Americans that were into rock and roll, so that was a little odd to me at that time. And like I said, I was 16, I guess. Maybe I was 15. Anyway, I drove, or at least I think I did. But anyway, this guy was asleep during the concert, the whole concert, and it was just sitting right next to me, just with his arms folded, snoring. I could actually hear him snoring sometimes. And at the end of every song, of course, everybody would go crazy, and he would go, the song would end, he'd go, and then right back into his death sleep. I don't know what was wrong with him. He didn't appear to be drunk, but that was pretty surreal to sit beside somebody that was asleep during a concert. Rolling Stones in 90 Steel Wheels, no, the Voodoo Lounge tour, whatever it was. I don't remember the year. Not the show that I showed here, but the one where I was in the second to last row. There was a TV show back then called In Living Color, and there was a skit on it where this guy was drunk at like a family reunion, and he kept hollering out, yelling at everybody, "Put on some Al Green! Put on some Al Green!" Yelling at him to put on Al Green album. And I always found that pretty humorous. And me and my buddy were at this show, and at the end of one of the songs, I turned to my buddy and I yelled, "Put on some Al Green!" We got a big laugh out of it. I'll be damned. Mick Jagger, the next thing he says, 2 seconds after that was, "Okay, we're going to do an old Al Green number now." Me and my buddy just about died. It was, that was funny as hell. Loverboy. I think I mentioned this earlier. I was at a Loverboy concert with a bunch of school buddies. I got up to go get a Coke, and when I came back, my whole section was empty. It was kind of one of those weird moments like, what the hell, did everybody get abducted by aliens? But no, there was a guy on the balcony up above us that had leaned over and puked all over everybody, everything. So that was the best Coke I ever had in my life, Coca-Cola. What'd you think I was talking about? I was at a Kiss show, and I think this was probably about 1985, maybe on the Animalize tour, on the floor, and all of a sudden in the back of my leg I feel this real sharp stab, and I thought the first thing that went through my head was somebody had stuck me with a needle, and who knows what, and it freaked me out. I started sweating and getting all pale, like I was going to get sick, felt like I was going to pass out, and I had to get my friend to take me, to help me get out of there so I could get something to drink and cool off. And it turns out it was probably like a safety pin or something like that, but that put the fear in me that night, man. I thought somebody had shot me up with something, and I won't ever forget that. Scary moment. Let's see, some other concerts I didn't mention that, some great bands that I saw. It was Clapton, Simon and Garfunkel, Government Mule. I seem to have lost all my Government Mule tickets. I've seen them about 5 or 6 times, probably 5 times. Dream Theater, I've seen a number of times. They always put on a great show. Saw them with, they were the headline band, and Zappa, Dweezil Zappa was doing this thing called Zappa Plays Zappa, which is a fantastic show. He was there, and another band called Scale the Summit, which has since then become my favorite instrumental progressive metal type band. They play some great stuff. Saw Yes. They put on a great show. So many stubs, though, that have just disappeared. But what are you going to do? Anyway, this was kind of just a teaser for a giveaway that's coming up. I'll probably try to do a video on that. I don't know, maybe today, maybe soon. I have to figure out how I can give something away, so, and what to give away. Anyway, be looking for that pretty soon. And made me think of Pipe Smoking Diet, or Carl. I haven't seen him in a while, but rock on, rock on. All right, you guys take it easy.